All right, we're going to continue on with combat here. I know that says 5. Think of this as 5 Bravo. But I decided right at the end of that last video that, and I didn't even do a like, subscribe, share. So, hey, like, subscribe, and share if you like this combat. That it's going on kind of long, and we still have a lot more to discuss. So I think it'd just be better if I broke it down. Now we'll talk about range combat, and I think we'll get into vehicle combat after that. We'll also talk about some grenades and so forth, I think. But since we're moving to a completely different topic, I think it is time to just make another video out of this. So bear with me just one moment as I do the proclivities here, and then we're going to talk about ranged combat in Coriolis. The core values of #RPGate and any good tabletop group are escapism, not representation, entertainment over activism, and natural, organic inclusion, not forced diversity. Please follow that QR code or refer to the description below for the link to the charity we support, which is the Wounded Warrior Project. Thursdays and Saturdays, you can watch the Dirty Casuals on twitch.tv/Legion of Myth. Fridays and Sundays, you can watch the Friday Night Chill Stream and RPG Digest on our YouTube and Rumble channels. Please leave us a comment with your thoughts and experiences, and if you like our gaming content, please be sure to subscribe to Legion of Myth. All right, there we go. Let's up the screen. I don't think I put up my segment 1 banner. I didn't do that, did I? See, again, Heathen Dog ruined everything for me by not being here. I didn't even have my segment 1 banner up. What a failure I am. I used to read the intro. Now I have a couple different video clips. I'm gonna make a couple of more at some point, maybe this week since I'm off this week. But yeah, I'm gonna try to make an even shorter one so that we have a long one, a medium one, and a short one. But yeah, I did that because I got sick and tired of reading them constantly. Because reading them, I would tangent myself and I'd go off on. They'd take like 5 minutes to do. So I just put them in video format. But I do have to laugh. You guys made some good comments out there. Oops, let me just back up the screen. There we go. A couple of, hold on, where is this? I like this. First of all, Elle said, just cover the floor with D4s. Yeah, there you go. You'll end any ground to pound right there. And of course, Malachi had to go with spider monkey style. For those, again, it's like Piglet. For those who know, no. There we go. Okay, let's talk about ranged combat now as we go deeper into the Coriolis game. When attacking the enemy from a distance, test the ranged combat skill. You'll need some form of ranged weapon, duh. Be it just a rock. So ranged combat in Coriolis is both throwing, bows. I said both, but I'm going to give more than 2. It's going to be throwing, bows, firearms, grenades, etc. Again, I don't want to call it rules light because it does obviously have some crunch to it, but the game makes it as easy and cinematic for you to roll the dice. Now, you might sit here and be like, well, I can't throw a dart, but I can shoot a firearm. Listen, the characters in this game perform roles. Your role is ranged combat. So the game just makes the assumption that ranged combat means ranged combat. You can pick up a bow, you can shoot a gun, you can throw a rock. So that you don't have to have 17 people in the party to fill every little skill that you might need. You're the ranged combat guy. And probably everybody's got a little bit of ranged combat. It's a sci-fi game. Probably everybody knows how to shoot a gun, at least to some degree. Think of it that way. Don't think of it as you're a specialist in something. Think of it as that you're performing a role. Excuse me. So, tables in Chapter 6 lists the maximum range of different weapons. How far away your target can be for the weapon to still be used effectively, and we'll talk about that in the next video. Well, in the segment 6. You can fire your weapon at targets at up to 1 range step beyond the weapon's maximum range, but you will suffer a -3 modifier. That's 3 dice, remember. So, if it says that you can shoot to long range, you can actually shoot into extreme range, but you'll be doing that with a -3 modifier. Cover. Hold on. I don't know what just caused me to start coughing, so bear with me. We'll take a drink. All right, you cannot defend against ranged attacks. What? Even Palladium says that you can dodge a ranged attack, and I say no. If you know it's coming. I get what Palladium's trying to do when it does that. It's saying, hey, because it does specifically state that you have to see it coming. You're basically dodging the person's aim, but no, you can't dodge a bullet. But you can take cover, and you can make it harder for the person to try to hit you. I do agree with that. So I can't talk. The smart move is to find cover. If your target is prone or small, you suffer a -1 modifier to the shot. Tiny targets can give even bigger penalties. A large target, such as a vehicle, instead gives you a +1. Huge targets give you a +2 or more. This is up to the GM. This is a rule that I see people forgetting a lot. At least I shouldn't say a lot. In the couple of Let's Plays that I watched, I saw the Game Master forget this, at least in my mind. The distance to your target will also affect your hit chance. When the target's at long range, you get a -1, extreme range -2, close range -3. So let's look at this for a second. If you want to shoot somebody at extreme range, but your gun is only rated for long range, you're going to get a -2 for it to be extreme range and a -3 for going outside the range of the weapon. So that's -5 dice. Can you hit? Maybe. If you watch that combat video that I did, I had a couple of die rolls where I was rolling 13 and 14 dice. So a -5, you're still rolling 8, right? So it depends on how you set yourself up for success. Set yourself up for success. Within close range, you either get a -3 if engaged with close combat, because it's hard to shoot at somebody that's like right here in front of you. Or you get a +3 if the target is immobile or unaware of you. Depending on how immobile and unaware, I would actually just say you hit. Okay. So why? Okay. Now you might be sitting here and saying, well, if you say you hit, how do you know how much damage you do? I would still have you roll, and you'd have a minimum of 1 success. That's a house rule that I do. You'd still roll with the +3, but even if somehow you rolled no successes, I'd give you 1 success, and then figure it out from there. Aim shot. If you take your time to aim carefully before squeezing, you get a +2 to your attack roll. So if you remember, a normal attack, I know, right? No, he had a change of plans. That's what happened. His plans got changed on him. I'm going with the excuse that he just wasn't ready for his segment. But he had a change of plans, so that's why he's not here today, Violence. If you remember, though, that if you went with a quick attack, so that it only cost 1 action, it was a -2 to your attack roll. Well, now that you're giving yourself a bonus, you're taking an extra action, so 3 actions, it's a +2 to your attack roll. All right. Cannot make an aim shot against an enemy with whom you're engaged in close combat. Simply no time to aim. Quick shots. If there's no time for aiming, you can just shoot from the hip. You get -2 to your attack roll. Okay, we already read about that. At least I thought we did. So it's 1 AP, but -2 to your attack roll. There are 2 special rules that apply to quick shots. First, you can only fire a quick shot against enemies at close range or short range. So out to, was it 20 meters, 25 meters? Is that what it is? If you make 3 quick shots in the same turn, your clip is empty or your cell depleted. You normally don't run out of ammo in the game. I think we'll talk about that more later in the next video. I think we'll figure that out. It might be in this reloading section. I forget. You don't normally run out of ammo. There are things that come into place. I have to spend a darkness point to make you run out of ammo. You can shoot full auto, and when we get to that, you'll see that, and you can run out of ammo. You have to, basically, decisions have to be made to have you run out of ammo. You don't count your bullets in this game. But if you make 3 quick shots, because you're essentially giving yourself 3 attacks in 1 round, even if they all are at a -2, it's like, okay, the drawback to that is you're out of ammo. Deal with it. But my gun has more than 3 bullets in it. Great. You triple tapped each time. Pop, 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 pop. You're trying to John Wick everybody, and you ran out of ammo. Reloading. Most firearms have large enough magazines for you to not need to worry about counting shots during a fight. Just reload when the fight is over. There you go. There are a few exceptions. Some primitive firearms, like long rifles, bows, rocket launchers, require reloading after every shot. You know, muzzle loaders, right? If you make 3 quick shots in the same turn, your clip is empty and your cell depleted. Or your cell depleted. When you shoot full auto fire, you run a great risk of emptying your clip, and we can talk about that when we get to that section. So reloading in combat is a normal action, so that means it takes 2 action points unless you have the rapid reload talent, which it's 1 action. Do we want to do bonus effects now or chat? Let's look at chat. Let's see. Smiley face begun. After range attack has begun. 2 weeks for our special guest. Okay. Yeah, the special announcement is that it looks like, again, nothing's guaranteed because it's based on when it's going to be announced. Oh no, Walter MC, after this video is over, or this segment is over, ask that question again so that I remember, okay? I'll start, but that doesn't guarantee without Heathen Dog here I'm going to remember. I will answer that, but I'm not going to answer it on the video. Nope. That's only for people who watch the live stream that get this answer. So remind me, though, because I want to answer that question for you. That's fine. You guys can post it in chat. That's totally fine. You can give them the answer in chat. And I see that Malachi already did that. So what's this? I spent 6 hours recently defining range combat in my game to come up with a simple chart to define the effects at longer distance. Fluidity with a sense of simulation. Okay. You know what game, as much as I complain about it, what game I think does range combat really, really well, at least in terms of understanding range categories? Battlelords of the 23rd Century with its range brackets. There are lots of that game that are way too crunchy for me, but I really think that Battlelords of the 23rd Century does an amazing job of handling range through its range brackets. Right. Else, G -8, -10 depending on the game. Parries for certain classes. Can't defend against ranged attacks. One agile fighter with the bow and arrow, and the other has a knife, shield, spear. Both are trained, but okay. You can defend against ranged attacks. You can't dodge a bullet. There's a difference. I would give a penalty for the person fighting. See, I also, but to be fair, I also have my own combat chart for Palladium that allows for fire and maneuver and also cover and concealment. It's too deep for the Palladium game itself. It's not meant to be in the Palladium game, but as somebody who likes to handle cover and concealment a little bit differently than the way Palladium does. But no, you're not dodging a bullet. If I roll to hit you and that bullet hits, you're hit. You're not dodging. But you can make it harder for the person shooting. That's how I handle it. So hopefully that makes sense. And no, and I also don't, unless you're playing Rifts, I don't believe, or Heroes Unlimited, I don't believe in Wonder Woman. You're not blocking bullets. I missed the joke. Yes, Walter MC, that is what it is supposed to be, but they're not telling me what it is. So I don't know myself. Okay. All right, let's move on here. Bonus effects. Oh, yeah, okay. When your range combat roll is successful, your attack hits and you inflict weapon damage. This is the same as the melee combat. You roll damage. For each additional 6, you get to add an additional effect. You can inflict 1 point of damage. You can inflict critical injury. That's the same as before. Here's a new one, though. Suppressive fire. You force your enemy to keep her head down. Suffers 1 point of stress. That's mind damage. And I know we haven't really looked at that, but here, I can put the character sheet back up. Right? And where's our damage on here? Trauma, hit points. If you look over here where I'm highlighting, you have hit points, which is strength plus agility. They add up to make your hit points. And then you have mind points, which is wits plus empathy. Okay? So you'll have a set of points for there. So you can attack both, and if either one of those gets down to 0, the character is broken. And we'll talk about that when we talk about damage. This effect can also be chosen multiple times. Raise initiative, we saw that before, and disarm. Basically, you shoot the arm or shoot the weapon or whatever. Automatic fire. Here's where this one, people are going to feel ways about things about this. I like it. I really do. I like it. I also like the way Twilight 2000 does it, even though it's different. Another Year Zero engine game uses a different version of the Year Zero engine, but I really like the way Coriolis handles automatic fire. Some firearms are capable of unleashing deadly bursts of fully automatic fire. And I don't think there's anything on this side. Nope, that's just artwork. Fire differs from regular range attack in the following ways. First of all, because you're going fully auto, it counts. That's all your actions. Doing the Jesse Body from Predator, right? Your target must be in long range or less. You're not shooting a kilometer away, going full auto. Not if you want to hit anyway. If you just want to run out of ammo for some reason, go for it. Get a -2 modifier to your attack roll. Anybody who's fired a weapon at full auto knows that it is harder to keep that thing on target. Which is one of the reasons why in like the M16A2 that they removed a fully automatic fire and made a 3-round burst. Regardless of whether your initial roll is successful or not, you can choose to keep rolling dice. I want to say this again. You can choose to keep rolling dice one at a time. These extra dice are added to your first roll. However, as soon as you roll a 1, your clip is empty and you must reload. So what is the benefit of this? Well, normally you're rolling your dice with -2 penalty, right? Let's just arbitrarily say you end up rolling 6 dice and you get a success. You could just keep it at that. Like, I've used all my actions in the round and I got 1 success. You could do that. Or you could say, I am doing this full auto because I want to fill this person so full of lead that he's never getting up again. All right. So you roll, and let's arbitrarily say again, you rolled those dice and you got 1 success. Well, now you can choose to keep rolling. And here we go. I'm going to roll. You probably hear it click on my table. And I got a 5. That's not a success. Why? Because a 6 is still a success. So that's a nothing. I'm going to keep rolling. I got a 2. That's a nothing. I got another 2. A nothing. I'm going to keep doing this. I got a 5. Oh, 5s and 2s, man. Oh, wait, is that a 6? No, I got a 6. That is another success. Got a 6. That's what the little squiggly thing there is. It's a 6 because 1 is on the other side, if you can see that. So I can still go. So that's 2 successes. I can keep going. Got a 5. I got another 6. So now we're at 3 successes. This is awesome. I got another 6. So that's 4 successes. And I got a 2. See where this is going? I'm going to keep rolling until I get a damn 1. 3, 4, 1. There we go. Finally got the 1. So now my magazine is empty. But I went from 1 success to 4 successes. We just lit this MFer up. That's why you do that. Now, I could have stopped at any time there. You know what? I got that extra success. So that's all I needed. I can inflict a critical wound to him. I'm good. I could have done that. But you know what? When you start gambling, you can't stop. You got to keep going. So now I'm out of ammo, but I've done 4 successes on that guy. So, Kokoshuko, watch my, if you can suffer through it, watch my video on Coriolis combat and I was even laughing. I rolled 14 dice for a roll one time, and I think I got 0 successes, or maybe it was 1 success. But yeah, these Coriolis dice hate me. They hate me. I don't know what it is. They really do. It's the worst rolling dice I've ever had. It's kind of comical, but I laugh about it. Anyway, here we go. So, mounted weapons. Yes, you can keep rolling until you roll a 1. That's how that works. You don't have to keep rolling. You can choose to stop rolling. But you keep rolling. Once you roll a 1, you're out of ammo. So mounted weapons. Many large mounted weapons have magazines so big they don't need to be reloaded in combat. Remember, this is not a simulation. This game is cinematic. So you just keep firing them. Full auto fire with these weapons works the same as with other weapons, but a result of 1 on the extra automatic fire dice instead means the shooter loses control of the weapon and must stop firing. That's all it means. So you're done. And you can describe that how you want. The barrel gets too hot, though he loses control of it and just starts shooting wildly. It gets too much for him. The enemy's moved out of the way. I mean, you can describe it how you want. I know it says loses control over the weapon, but you do it how you want in your cinematic style of game. No reloading is necessary. You just have to wait until next round to do that again. When you fire full auto, you can choose to distribute your dice, those are the original roll and the extra full auto dice, against new targets. So as I got 4 successes now, I could choose to have 1 success against 4 targets. Why? Because I was going brrr, or I could choose 2 and 2 or 3 and 1 or all 4 at one person because I just wanted to gun that SOB down. Additional 6s against a new target mean bonus effects as usual. Every new target directed fire against must be within close range of the previous target. So got to be somewhere. Remember, that's 2 meters. So they've got to be kind of standing, call it side by side for the lack of better. And that's because you're going like this. You're not letting up on the triggers. It's not like a Shadowrun smart gun. You're not like, brr, 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 you're just going brr, across. And you can fire it at any number of targets until the burst is cut off by rolling a 1. You could theoretically, if you have some some great D6s, you could do 20, 30 points of damage. I doubt that's going to happen often, but you could technically do that, even though the gun has no chance of, on a normal roll of doing that. But because it's full auto, that's the benefit of full auto. Now, I'll talk about Overwatch Fire before I read chat. As a fast action, 1 action point, you can assume an overwatch position, aiming in a specific direction. It's a 90-degree direction. Again, I do almost all of these examples on that combat video if you can suffer through all my tangents and disclaimers. Good half hour of that video didn't need to exist. But okay, there it is. Your aim covers 90-degree fire arc within your line with your line of sight in the middle. You cannot assume an overwatch position when engaged in melee combat, of course. I mean, that makes sense. Don't pull out the freaking protractors and compasses to figure out 90 degrees. Just look at your map and just say that's 90 degrees-ish. That's actually 92. Shut up. And I say this, and this is the type of disclaimer, I do this a lot in that video. The reason I say this is because I've heard that stuff come up. I don't know if that's 90 degrees. I look at it, just a little bit. It's close enough to 90 degrees. Everything should be approximate for you. Now, if you're going to 120 degrees, you're probably cheating. If you're only letting the player have 60 degrees, you're probably cheating. But, just 90-ish degrees, okay? Overwatch means that you're ready to fire your weapon the direction you aim at any time during the coming turn. That means you can lose initiative, but as long as you're in an Overwatch position, you'd still go first. From now until your initiative score comes around again in the next turn. During this time, you can fire a normal shot costing 2 AP. Remember, your Overwatch shot still costs action points whenever you want to before any other actions are performed, even if they have been declared. For example, if an enemy within your fire arc wants to shoot at you, you can shoot him first. Your enemy cannot change their declared action after your Overwatch attack if you and the enemy both are in Overwatch position or in each other's fire arc, as opposed to ranged combat roll. Free action for both of you decides who goes first. And again, that is a little vague, I know, but that's for you to figure out at your table. A broken Overwatch, and that's supposed to allow the game master to have the ability to make rulings over rules. As soon as you perform any action other than shooting at a target in your fire arc, your concentration breaks and your Overwatch position is gone. This also immediately happens if you become engaged in close combat or you take damage. This doesn't mean that you can't get into Overwatch position. Again, it just means at this point, it's done. And now I'm going to look at chat. What do we have for chat? Close enough for government work. All right, what was that? Was that to me? That was to me. I agree with you. Riffs is already more gonzo. Yeah, Riffs is more gonzo than I enjoy as well, but it's slowly working on me. It's slowly, I still prefer the SDC games to the MDC games, but I get it. Always. Let's see. Talking guys. Hey, so automatic fire can keep rolling. Yes, okay, so I answered that one. That's a low rolling die, yeah. Especially annoying since when they talk about other stuff. Cool. Okay. Sorry for the people who have to pay, deal with this on a video, but this is a live stream. All right. Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know what the announcement is. All I know is that they've said that they're willing to come back. Got something to announce, and we're welcome to have them back. So people who know, join our Discord and post your questions, comments, and concerns there. Because I have very little, other than asking so how's the family, to directly ask those guys, because I've kind of asked them everything that I want to. So it's up to you guys to ask the questions, other than whatever it is that they announce, because, that'll be exciting, right? All right, let's move on here, because people who are watching the video are going to be like, what the F are you talking about? Weapons make you more effective in close combat. We already looked at that remember, defending against somebody who's unarmed. I'm sorry, if you're unarmed, defending against somebody who's armed is -2 to your defense, right? Well, let's see what it says here. Bonus tells you what gear bonus modifiers you get to your attack roll. So if you're using a sword in combat and it says +2, you get +2 to attack. Okay? It can be positive or negative. Yeah, there can be some clumsy weapons as well, and I know that there are some. There can be some clumsy weapons. Initiative on a weapon that modifies your initiative score on the condition that you attack with the weapon in the turn. We already talked about that in the last video. Did I say video? In the last video. You have to use the weapon. You can't just say, because I'm carrying it, I get the initiative bonus. No, you have to attack with the weapon that round. All right. Weapon damage determines how many points of damage are inflicted on your enemy if the attacks hit. So if your weapon says it does 3 damage, 1 success does 3 damage. If you apply extra successes to it, it's 1 additional point of damage. So if you get 3 successes on a weapon that does 3 damage, you could feasibly do 5 points of damage. 3 damage for the first success, 4, and then 5 damage. Crit tells you how many extra successes beyond the first one you need to roll to inflict a critical injury on your opponent. That's right, we talked about that already, but I'll mention again since it's being mentioned here again. If your weapon has a crit rating of 2, that means you have to use up 2 of your extra successes to apply critical damage. Range is the maximum range with the weapon can be used effectively. Light weapons require only half a row, and we have not talked about, I don't think we've talked about gear encumbrance. It's like every other Year Zero engine game, half a row for light items, 1 row for normal items, and 2 rows for heavier unwieldy items, which are, and you get a number of rows. I say row, I think it says items, whatever, normal items. So if you have a strength of 4, that means you can have 8 rows worth of items. It's whatever your strength is times 2. Heavy weapons require 2 rows in your gear list, so that's a heavy item. Automatic weapons can be fired, so it has to have this nomenclature, this flag, so to speak, can be fired in fully automatic mode. Special means special features and modifications which are found in some weapons. And when we talk about equipment in the next video, then we'll... Stress, okay. Now we're getting to the damage side of things. Hey, get back over here. I already looked at chat, so off for now, take care. All right, have a good one, Per. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your time. I don't know if Elle was talking about this game. If you talk about this game, it's not complicated at all. It just has a few options to it. That yeah, I've had people actually say on that combat video that I did that the game is too complicated. Now Elle might be talking to somebody else in chat about a completely different game, but I'm going to put it up here. Where some people post like, wow, that was way complicated. The reason it seems complicated is because 2 things. Number 1, I'm doing a complete breakdown. I'm explaining the stuff. Heathen Dog's asking questions. I'm giving myself 500 disclaimers instead of going point to point. I had that one bulleted. I didn't have it scripted. So I probably should do a Coriolis combat video that's just fully scripted instead of a stream. But it's also because I did every feature I could think of. Grenade damage, going prone, fully auto, praying to the icons, praying at a chapel, darkness points. I incorporated everything that I could find in this chapter into that, and it took 6 rounds to go through. That's why it seems complicated. Now, if he's talking to somebody else, that's fine, but I just want to alleviate that here and now. All right, let's move on. Anything more complicated than basic D? Well, that's the thing, is everybody has their own styles of play, right? I used to not like basic D&D because it didn't have enough rules. Remember, like I said, in the 90s, I was very simulationist, and I didn't like the fact that it didn't have rules for it. In the 90s, I might have liked Pathfinder. I might have liked 3rd edition D&D. I don't know. You know, I mean, technically it came out in 2000 and I hated it. So, you know, but now I could agree with Al. As long as the game master is allowed to make rulings, which game masters are always allowed to do that, and L puts up with the rulings, whatever that game master says. And let me phrase that, as long as the game master is what I put in, what I write in my book, fair and reasonable. A fair and reasonable game master can make any ruling he wants. Okay, I now know what you're doing in your game. That's fair and reasonable. Let's move on. As long as he does it for the NPCs as well as the PCs, you know. So I'm cool with that. All right. Stress. You start the game with a pool of mind points equal to your wits plus your empathy. We already showed that on the character sheet a little bit ago. When you are attacked in combat or when someone tries to use manipulation on you, you might suffer stress, which lowers your number of mind points from mental strain. Contact with the dark between the stars can also have this effect. If something puts you to 0 mind points, you suffer a breakdown. Okay, so you're not broken, you're broken down. You suffer a mental breakdown. Collapsing from fear or anxiety. You can follow simple commands but not take any action that requires die rolls. I should say die rolls, not dice rolls. That's weird. After 1d6 hours, you regain some control of yourself and 1 MP is restored. So you'll be at 1. But for 1d6 hours, so that could be 1 hour, that could be 6 hours, you can only listen to simple actions like go over there, you're no use to us. Okay, I'll go over there. Or okay, yeah, I'll go. You know, whatever. I mean, it depends on how you broke down. You could have shell shock. You could just be dazed and confused. Whatever. Skills. You can use either command or metacurgy to treat someone who has suffered breakdown. Hey, soldier, get back out there and get fighting. If your roll is successful, that person you are calming down regains, or, you know, you could go the other way about that. If you know, that's the general pattern way, right? You could also go, hey, man, we understand. Just hang in there, buddy. You can do it. You got this, man. You got this. You know, however you want to do it, whatever works for your character. If your roll is successful, person you're calming down regains MP equal to the number of 6s on your roll. So you'd make a command roll or metacurgy roll. And here, I'll just roll whatever dice I pull out of here. I pulled 4 dice out of here. I got literally 0 6s because my Coriolis dice suck. And so I didn't heal at all, and he's screwed. Okay. Each attempt is a slow action. Each person can try only once. Recovery. You automatically recover 1 MP per hour when resting. So, well, what about this up here? Well, this is if you're still under anxiety. If you are able to rest, I'm sorry, 1 MP per hour when resting. I said this wrong. I apologize, and let me go back. It takes you a d6 hours still to recover. Once you get that 1 MP, then you get 1 more per hour. If you've taken mind point damage throughout the fight, let's say you start with 8 and you're down to 4, you'll still just recover 1 per hour when resting. So 4 hours later, you can be back to max. But if you've suffered a breakdown, however, you run the risk of permanent trauma. Roll 1 die. If the result is a 1, your maximum total of mind points is permanently reduced by 1. So if you had that 8 and you suffered and you were broken and you roll a 1, you just roll 1 die. That's it. So it was a 15% chance, if I got my math right. 15% chance that you have a permanent reduction of mind points of 1. So it goes from 8 to 7 in that case. If you permanently drop to 0, you become a raving lunatic. And I love that a game doesn't have a problem saying that. This is why I love Free League. Time to create a new PC. Right there. Boom. You're in the loony bin, buddy. Sorry, nothing more we can do for you. Damage. You run the risk of being injured in combat. Everything from exhaustion to bleeding cuts and broken bones is summarized as damage. How much damage you take is determined by your number of hit points. Starting hit points is the strength plus agility score. So think of it this way. Strength, which is also kind of your constitution, is your ability to take the damage. Agility is your ability to avoid the damage, all wrapped into one. So it's kind of like real hit points, right? Talents can modify your hit point total. Armor, and this is one of the things that I was wrong about, and I think I mentioned it last week. But I thought that Coriolis did the newer version of the armor, which is just, it's a static point system. It's not, it's dice. To protect yourself from harm, you can wear armor. The effectiveness of a piece of armor is described by its armor rating. So like if you're walking around in an exosuit with 9 armor, that means you roll 9 dice to avoid damage. When you take damage from an attack, roll a number of dice equal to your armor rating. Each 6 you roll lowers the damage by 1. So that person who, remember before I did, got 4 successes, right, with that fully automatic shot. Let's say that weapon does 2 points of damage. And I just said, screw it, I'm going to go for full-on damage because I need to break through this armor, try to break through this armor. So we had 2 for the first success, and then I had 3 more successes. So that's 4. So we total 5 points of damage. 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. I would now roll, because I'm using an Exo 9 dice, which is all the dice I have in here, because I think I'm missing one. All right, how many 6s do I get? 9 dice. Let's see what my Coriolis dice do for me. 1 success. 1 success! I'm telling you, these Coriolis dice suck. So 1 success. So I would reduce that damage from 5 to 4. There you go. The armor roll is a free action. If damage from the attack is reduced to 0, you escape any critical injuries as well. So that means you can't say that you took a critical injury. Cover. In a firefight, taking cover behind something could save your life. Choosing something sturdy like a metal door frame or a brick wall. Taking cover is a fast action. So if you're like, well, got to slip behind that thing, separate from any movement required to reach the cover itself. So if it's a fast action to reach the cover, taking cover because you're positioning yourself properly takes another fast action. Covers also have armor ratings and work just like armor. So what does this mean? If you run to the cover and then take cover, that's 2 actions. How can you shoot? You'll have to do it as a quick action. That's the only way. Otherwise, this round, you're focused on defense. Now, if you're already near the cover, you don't really have to move. You just have to take cover. Well, then you can take cover and do a normal action. So covers also have armor ratings, but only against ranged attacks. Cover and armor can be combined. Simply add the dice together. So if you're behind like a door frame, which I think is like 5, and you're wearing this exosuit, well, that would change that 9. 9 plus 5 is 14. I'd have 14 dice to roll, but on my dice, I'd still take damage. You can also lean on it when shooting for a +1 modifier, but not a quick shot. So you can give yourself a +1 modifier. Now, this is where things might start to seem crunchy, like, oh my God, I can do this. Well, all of this is supposed to be common sense. Theoretically, I would say this is the rulings over rules, but because people are going to have this question, well, if I'm bracing on some sandbags, shouldn't that make my shot easier? Well, here's the rule for it. It's +1. Don't overthink. This is the problem with crunch games. People overthink to try to get every modifier. I shut that shit down. Oops, sorry for the cussing. I shut that stuff down. Think, what are you doing? Combat is fast. Combat keeps moving. Well, I have to figure out where I get the most advantage. No, you don't. You're standing with analysis paralysis. I'm moving on to the next character. You're a dick. Yes, I am. What are you doing? Okay, I'm leaning on the sandbags. I'm going to look around the corner. I'm going to shoot. Okay, well, you're leaning on the sandbags. That gives you a +1. Looking around the corner isn't a big deal because you're still looking down your sight line. Roll your attack roll. Don't overthink this stuff and learn how to play cinematically. Okay? Being prone. If you're prone, enemies fire at you, suffer a -1 modifier. Why? Because you're a smaller target. This can be combined with the effect of cover. Also, you can claim the +1 fire support bonus when prone, even if you have no cover. Why do snipers like to lay down when they shoot? Why is Overwatch position? A lot of them lay down when they shoot. Now, not all Overwatches are above, and not all Overwatches are laying down. But why do they do that? Because it provides you cover and gives you stability. That's why they do it. Broken. If you drop to 0 hit points, this is the damage side of it, you are broken, unconscious, or paralyzed with pain, and in no condition to keep fighting. You cannot perform any actions that may test any skills. All you can do is writhe in pain and cry for help. Further normal attacks that would put you below 0 hit points have no effect, but you can still suffer additional critical injuries. This comes up in that video that I talked about where there was a discrepancy in the amount of damage that somebody took. And it was because he was already brought to 0, and you don't take any more damage once you're brought down to 0. What you do then is you just turn them into critical injuries. Okay? Being broken is not fatal. Only critical injuries can actually kill. There are only 2. Now, so how do critical injuries work? We already looked at those successes, right? Yeah, if you get extra successes. You roll 2d6, and there's a chart. I do not have the chart in front of me, so I don't know what the number is. But I rolled a 50. Oh my God. I rolled a 56. That's probably pretty bad. What I can tell you is if it had been a 65, that'd be instant death. I remember 65 and 66 are instant death. 64 is you're going to die pretty dang quickly. But there is hope. But since it was 56, there's probably just something pretty bad. And I don't know where the chart is in the book, and I'm not going to go look it up right now. But just know that a critical injury, now if that had been a 16, it's not much. It's like, maybe minus 1 to movement or something like that. So it starts off pretty innocuous and gets pretty high. There are talents that will allow you to roll more than once, or you can spend extra successes to roll more than once. So there's a 56. Well, what's my other roll? A 31. Well, obviously the 56 is better than the 31, so I'm going to choose the 56. So you can do that. But you have to spend the extra successes to do. All right. First aid. Someone can help you back to your feet by administering first aid to you. This is a slow action demanding a metallurgy roll. The medical equipment at hand determines what modifiers. It's just like gear dice. So it acts as gear dice. So if you have something in your hand, basically if you have a good first aid, a science fiction first aid kit that can cauterize or heal a wound, do that little laser scalpel thing, you might get +2 to your metallurgy roll. But without any medical equipment, the test cannot be attempted at all. You need to at least improvise something. Now, what's a good example of improvisation? Wow, I can't even say the word. A splint. There you go, a splint. Hey, I need a couple of strong branches, and I need your belt and your shoelaces, and you can make a splint. But you need something. If the roll is successful, you get back up immediately, regaining hit point equal to the number of 6s on the metallurgy roll. Okay. Of course, that's all going to be determined by the type of, critical hit that the person took. And is that it? Are we done? I thought we had vehicle combat. Oh, we do. Oh no, we have critical injuries. We'll look at that in a moment. Death and healing. Okay, atypical damage. Yeah, we got a bit more to go. Got a bit more to go. So, oh, here we go. Let's just, how about this? We already know how cover works, so we can probably skip, we know how damage works. We know how armor works. We've already talked, but we already know how cover works. We talked about that. So here's your cover. A door was 4. Okay, I thought it was a 5. The inner wall is a 5. A door was 4. Either way. But there you go. Remember, that adds on top of the armor that you're wearing. So if you're behind a brick wall and you're in a light exosuit, which is like 6, 7 plus 6 would be 13. Okay. Severity. We can skip for every extra 6 you spent. Okay, we can skip that. Effects of critical injuries. Most critical injuries have 2 effects. One immediate, such as making you fall over and being stunned, and one long-term, giving you negative modifiers to 1 or more skills. Stun. The stun effect is your stun for 1 turn, means you lose all remaining action points in the current turn, if you have any left, or in the next turn, if you have none left this turn. Okay, there you go. Basically, use a round of actions. These are some medical equipment and how it affects your metacurgy roll. So yeah, that splint, those 2 sticks, a belt, and a shoelace, it's going to be a -1 to the roll. You know, doctor's bag is 0, but if you come up to here, you have a whole trauma lab, which is part of a ship, which is a ship's module, so you have to be on the ship. Well, you'll get +4. Death. If you suffer a critical injury described as fatal, someone must give you first aid or you will die when the listed time runs out. So in that combat video that I talked about, the guy had a severed aorta. 1d6, I think it was minutes. Is either rounds or minutes, I forget. So 1d6 minutes to live. If that first aid roll to get in there with one of these items wasn't applied to that character, like a trauma kit, +3, that character is dead and there's no resurrection. First aid is a slow action, requires a successful metacurgy test modified by the available medical equipment. Remember, you only get 1 chance. Only get 1 chance. Yeah, there it is right there. Each person can attempts to treat, you can only try once. Get a second chance, better medical equipment is needed. If you are both broken and have sustained a fatal critical injury, 2 separate metacurgy rolls are needed. One to get you back on your feet and the other to save your life. Really, the important one is to save your life. The getting you back on your feet, that can be important, but look, get back on your feet. And I already said this before, 65 and 66 are simply kill you. I think 1 lops off your head and 1 goes through your heart or something like that. Healing. Each critical injury below lists its healing in time in days, usually with a number of D6s. If someone gives you medical treatment during recovery time, that person tests metacurgy modified by the available medical equipment. If it should be recovery times reduced by half. Yeah. So if you got like a leg damage, now not everything is in days, and I might be confusing Forbidden Lands with Coriolis, and if I am, my apologies. But just as an example, you could have like a broken leg, which is D6 weeks. That would mean you're -2 to attack and half your movement rate for D6 weeks. So let me roll this D6. I got a 3. That's 3 weeks. Now, if a successful metacurgy roll is accomplished during that time, it cuts it in half. So a week and a half. Now, that's up to you if you want that to be a week and a half. If you want that to be rounded to simply 2 weeks or 1 week, that's your business. But still. All right. Atypical damage. Atypical damage is done a little differently. Grenades are an example of atypical damage. There are many ways to get hurt in the third horizon. Some do atypical damage. As a rule, atypical damage is determined through a dice roll where each 6 means you take a point of damage. So everything there is normal, right? Oh, here's the critical hit chart. Everybody at home, roll a 2d6 as percentile. I'll keep this on the screen here. You can pause it and see what you come up with. Here, I'll even do it. All right. Oh, I got a 14. So we're right there. I got a sprained ankle. That sprained ankle is not fatal. You immediately fall down, but then you are -1 to dexterity. That's a skill. And infiltration for a D6 days. And metacurgy will reduce that. Now, I know some of you be like, man, I had a sprained ankle and I was out for weeks. This is a game of cinematic characters. Deal with it. Let's scroll down here. Let's do the 33 through whatever. Can I get a 33 through whatever? No, I got a 12. Okay. Go ahead and roll. There you go. 21. Oh, that's not it. Look, I'm going to just do the 32. Oh, it's one above. Whatever. I suppose there you can do your own die rolling. And then, oh, now we're getting to the bad stuff. That's 64. Severed aorta. It's fatal, and it's -1 to the test. So already it's -1 to the test, and you have to have the right equipment. Die in D6 minutes. You're unconscious for a D6 hours, and then -2 to dexterity, and that's if you survive. Heal time for that is 2d6 days. That might want to be, but you know, hey. You got a 23? Well, let's look up at your 23. You had broken toes, stunned for 1 turn, -2 to dexterity and infiltration for 2d6 days. Basically, out for 15 to 20 seconds. That's why you're stunned for 1 turn. So you're hopping along. Now let's get back to atypical weapon damage. Atypical weapon damage usually has a weapon damage of 1. The first 6 cause 1 point of damage. Critical injuries. Atypical damage can result in critical injuries as well, but only if the attack leaves you broken. Now, this was a mistake that I made, I think, in that video, and I did call myself out in that video. You cannot assign critical injuries unless the person is broken. Crafting Gamer for $2 says he got a gouged eye. Well, since he said that and he paid for it, I'll go back and look at it. Where's gouged eye? What number was that? Gouged eye. Gouged eye. 35. Stunned for 1 turn. He's like, oh my God, I can't see. Jeez. Then -2 to observation. You know, peripheral vision is hurt. Permanent ugly scar. Oh, that's forever. You got that scar right across your eye. You know, there's a game I played, and I don't know what it is, that actually made that a 50-50. Or is it 30? No, it's 33, 33, 33. Essentially, you had a 33% chance of going ugly, 33% chance of nobody caring, and a 33% chance of that increasing your charisma because that was a cool scar. And I can't remember what game that was. But your -2 to observation, you got a patch over your eye for 3d6 days. So there you go. And Kokoshuko says, chicks dig scars. There you go. Okay. If you drop to 0, okay, and there are extra 6s left unused, check the crit rating of atypical damage in question. If enough 6s are left, you suffer a critical injury. Critical injury from atypical damage is usually not rolled on table 5-6. Atypical damage has a special crit injury at the bottom of the table. So let's look at that. It says right here, unconscious. So if you take atypical damage, you're unconscious until death or until first aid is given. And it'll be described in the weapon. That's the thing. It can be fatal. It's described in the weapon, so you really need to look at the weapon to determine if it's what's going to happen. All right. Falling. I'm not going to actually cover this. You can read it there. You can take falling damage. You can take drowning damage. You can take fire damage. So why did I all of a sudden stop reading the book? Because I think we understand how damage works. Now we're getting into the specific of different types of damage, and I don't think we necessarily need to cover that. I will cover explosions, though, because this is how grenades work, and that is a weapon you throw. The strength of an explosion is measured in blast power. When an explosive detonates, the GM rolls an attack with a number of dice equal to the blast power. So if you have a grenade and has a blast power of 6, you're rolling 6 dice. And you roll once for each person within close range of the explosion. I house rule this. I actually think it's written in the book as an optional rule, but either way, I house rule this. I roll once. If there are like 6 people in that blast radius, I'm not rolling 6 different types of damage. I roll the damage 1 time and then just go from there. Everybody takes the same damage based on armor and so forth. You might have some cover that helps you out. There are things that can help you out, soak up that damage, but I only roll 1 time. I'm not rolling for every single person. Armor may be tested. The crit rating of normal explosions is 2. That means you have to spend 2 successes per to get a critical injury. So critical injuries caused by explosions are rolled on table 5-6 like a regular critical injury. So blast radius. Powerful explosives with blast power of 7 or higher may wound people at close range and beyond. What you do there is at close range, it's 7, but at short range, it's 1. Now, it's only 1 die, so chance of getting damage. Oh, I just got a 6. That's awesome. So I did get damage on that person. But you -6 from the roll. So let's say you have a blast power 9 grenade. You whip that thing out there within close range, which is only 2 meters. I know Army folks are going to be like, well, we're told to stand 6 meters apart, if that's still a thing. I was trained to stand 6 meters apart so that if something is thrown there, one person might go down, but the rest, good probability you're not. Well, in this one, it's just 2 meters, and then it goes out to the next range. But that's fine, because if you have blast power 9 weapon, you'll have blast power 9 at close range, and then blast power 3, because it's -6 for people in close range. And close range is a pretty big range. That's 10 meters, so. The crit range of normal explosions too, but bombs containing shrapnel such as nails or ball bearings, as well as some forms of grenades, are more lethal. Explosives that spread shrapnel damage have a weapon damage of 2 and a crit rating of 1. We by now should know how that works. Okay, Coriolis is not mainly a game about Coriolis is not mainly a game about survival, unlike Forbidden Lands, which I'd say does have a lot of survival elements in it, but you could well up into a situation where you don't have enough food or water. I am not going to cover this. It's on the screen, it's big, you can read it. Okay? But just know that you can suffer critical injuries from hunger and thirst, but it takes a while for that to happen. Radiation is, as you can see, there's something. Cold, vacuum is something to worry about. I mean, it's space, right? Here. That's probably something. No, I'm not going to cover it. I'll leave it on the screen long enough for you to pause. And then here's the other part of that. If you really want to read it, you can pause it. By this point, you either like the combat system or you don't. Radiation, yes, there's absolutely radiation. Vehicles. All right, I think vehicles are the last thing. We're finally done. Vehicles are the last thing. The Third Horizon is home to many different kinds of vehicles. Driving under normal circumstances requires no dice rolls. Again, under normal circumstances, and that's the way every game should be. You don't have to roll dice to go to work. Okay? Wow, I went from 15 people watching to 9 people watching. I think it said 7 a moment ago. So you all are hating this, but that's fine. I don't care. You can continue to hate it. I know it's a little boring. We're doing a read through, we're doing a deep dive, and we're explaining. It's not for everyone, but I appreciate the people who are hanging out. More advanced maneuvers demand pilot tests. Note that pilot is an advanced skill. Unless you have a skill of at least 1 in pilot, you don't get to roll for it and fail the test automatically. So you can still drive back and forth to work, but if you're trying to do any sort of racing or crash up derby or anything like that, no. The modifier you get to your pilot test when performing challenging maneuvers is your gear bonus. Small, agile vehicles generally have higher bonuses than large, heavy ones. I don't know if we're going to look at those types of vehicles today. I think we might, but I'm not exactly sure. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the equipment video, which will be the next one, just enough to look it over so you can see what's in the game and kind of how what the numbers mean. But we're not going to dive into all the pieces of equipment. Hit points, how much damage a vehicle can take before becoming wrecked. Wrecked is like broken. Movement rate, fuel, that's right. Vehicles need fuel. And here are an example of a few. Here is an example of a few. So armored Gravcraft has no bonus, has 40 hit points. Wow, that's got a lot of hit points. Movement rate is 16, so it's not the fastest out there, also not the slowest. Heavy armor. And can hold 8 passengers. So it's a good APC. Now, Grav Bike. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Thing is fast as heck, right? But only has 8 hit points, but it gets a +2 bonus to pilot test because, motorcycles are nimble. And you can see the rest there. Vehicles in combat. The main thing, we already know how to shoot guns. The main thing to understand about vehicles is that you can ram. Most vehicles can be used as weapons, simply ram your enemies. It counts as a melee combat attack, but you test pilot instead of melee combat. What's a melee combat attack? Well, that's a 2-action ability. Don't forget vehicle's gear bonus. The weapon damage is equal to the vehicle's hit point divided by 5 rounded up. So let's look at this APC. Hit points divided by 5. So that's 8 dice. Oh, no, that's 8 damage. That's because damage is a damage rating. Damage equal to hit point divided by 5, rounded up. So if you hit, that's 8 damage from just smack. And if you get extra successes, that's going to be more. So you don't want to be mashed by an armored Gravcraft. It's going to run you over and splat you. The Grav Bike, on the other hand, well, let's see. What is that again? Damaged vehicles is... oh my God. Why am I not seeing it? Vehicles suffer damage like people each point at lowering 0.51 with vehicles. How did I just lose this? And I was said it like 14 times. Oh, here we go. The weapon damage is equal to the vehicle's hit point. I thought it was lower for some reason. Divided by 5. So hit points divided by 5 rounded up. So, well, this divided by 5 is what? 8 divided by 5 is 1. But you round up because there's remainder. So that's 2. That's 2 points of damage for getting mashed by a bike, plus however many he rolls on that pilot test. Okay. Damage to vehicles. Vehicles suffer damage just like people. Each point of damage lowering the vehicle's total hit points by 1. When the vehicle hit points drop to 0, the vehicle's wrecked. Vehicles don't suffer critical injuries. Most vehicles have armor, which works just like armor does for people. You can use your vehicle to ram other vehicles as long as your vehicle has as many hit points as the enemy vehicle. What? So what that means is you're not going to take your little bike and ram that armored gravcraft. Unless this thing is all but dead. Roll the attack like you would if you were ramming a person. The damage from your attacks inflict on the enemy vehicle. Passengers in the vehicle are only hurt if the enemy's vehicle hit point drops to 0, in which case all passengers suffer the same amount of damage as the vehicle did. And then it gives a couple examples there that you can read if you buy the game yourself. And I think we're done. We are finally done. Whew. That should have been 3 videos, not just 1. Next, we're going to talk about weapons and equipment. I'm going to look at some chat first. Get this off the screen. And I hope that wasn't too dry, but you know, combat, if you were here for the Mutant Year Zero, you probably like a lot of that was familiar, but you know, a lot of it was also different. So like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate that. Let's see what people are saying. Okay, just some jokes going on, no problem. You lost your arm? Let me get my lightsaber to close up that. Remember, Star Wars is also a cinematic game. A lot of things happen in Star Wars that just wouldn't happen in real life, but it's a cinematic game. It's okay. Or a cinematic setting. Okie dokie. Weren't a lot of comments for the rest of this. I think I covered most of it, and if I didn't, well... Ooh, Rex Steele says, I'm afraid free league games will be too crunchy for me. Well, they cover a lot of situations, still sound pretty open and not very restricted. Correct. Yes, okay. I see. He said, I was afraid free league games would be too crunchy for me. That's the weird thing. And that's why I kind of don't like my actual combat example video. Not only do I have a million disclaimers that really take up time, that don't need to take up time. And it's not like it's right at the beginning and just fast forward through. No, I do it throughout the dumb video. And Heathen Dog's interruptions weren't a problem. I mean, that's what he's supposed to do on a live stream. But I find reasons to get off track. Let's put it that way. But it covers so much. And I do, if you read the comment section there, you'll see that I do have a few comments like, wow, this is crazy. This is way too complicated. It's not. I just unfortunately presented it as too complicated. It gives options. It gives a lot of options. And doesn't give every option, but it gives a lot of options so that you can make those rulings. If you decide that, you know, this isn't covered exactly right, then just go with it. You have the framework, and this is the word I like to use. You have the framework there to make your own rulings. But enough tactics and enough options for players and you as the game master to spend darkness points on to have meaningful combat within that framework. So yes, it'd take a little bit to learn, but it's not difficult at all. I think with a sci-fi game, you have to have some of those as well. I mean, Mutant Year Zero is pretty easy. I mean, guns were broken. They're basically musket loaders, right? And everything else was just more like fisticuffs and dealing with rot and people trying to bite your head off. That made the combat rules easier. Now you have to deal with laser weapons and sonic weapons and magic, which we'll talk about much later, and starships and people running you over and Overwatch positioning and so forth, because it makes sense in a sci-fi game. You got to have rules for that. So I'm glad you feel that way. I'm glad you see that it could get crunchy, if it's written differently. And I probably present it as crunchy, but really isn't.